Hey guys, my name is Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille. Welcome to our chain mail tutorial channel. Hey guys, a big hi, hello, welcome, how are you? Thanks for popping in and spending some time with me today. It's really great to see you here. So today I've got a weave tutorial for you. Now this one is a Byzantine variant. If you know the Olivia weave, you'll be able to do this one quite easily. So the name of the weave is a Bydand weave. Alright guys, let's jump straight into it. Okay guys, so I've got some sample pieces made up here for you of the Bydand weave. Coming up here on the side will be the sizes that I used to make these particular pieces. They'll also be listed down in the description section underneath the video. But just to run through them quickly with you, this one over here is 14 gauge AWG, that's 1.6 millimeter diameter wire. Now the bright aluminium, the silver size rings, they are 5.5 millimeters ID, and the larger colored rings, those are 5/16 of an inch or 7.94 millimeters. The next one is 16 gauge AWG, which is 1.2 millimeter diameter wire. The smaller rings, the silver ones, are 4.25 millimeter ID. The larger rings are 1/4 of an inch or 6.35 millimeters. The next one down is 18 gauge AWG, which is 1 millimeter diameter wire. The small rings are 3.5 millimeters and the larger rings are 3/16 of an inch or 4.76 millimeters. Now the smaller one here is 20 gauge AWG, 0.8 millimeter diameter wire. The smaller rings here are 3 millimeters. The larger rings, the coloured ones, are 5/32 of an inch or 3.97 millimeters. Just a note on the 20 gauge. Now, you may have noticed that the bright aluminium ring sizes are the sizes you would normally use for Byzantine. And for 20 gauge, that means that the ring size would have been 2.75 millimeters. Now, I initially made up a piece using 2.75 rather than the 3, and unfortunately, it didn't work. So, although it should have worked in theory, it worked on, in paper, all the others with the same aspect ratio worked. For some reason this one didn't want to work. You can see it's a little stiff. It was doable, but it was slow because the rings were very tight, and as I said, there's not the same amount of flex in it as the 3 millimeter, which is why I decided to go up one size just to make it a little bit easier to do. But if you don't mind working in challenging sizes and you like the look of this stiffer weave, then the small ring sizes for these ones were 2.75. So as I said, it's a Byzantine variant. If you know Byzantine and if you know Olivia, you're not going to have any troubles with this weave at all. Okay, so to start this weave, I'm going to make up all the Byzantine sections. So these bits just here are sections of Byzantine. So I'm just going to make a few of those up in advance, and then I'll show you how we join it all together. So to start Byzantine, you're going to need a chain of 2, 2, 2 in your smaller size rings. So if you want to go ahead and make that up now, however it is that you choose to do that. So I just popped 4 rings from the bag straight onto an open ring, doubled that up, and now I'm just going through and closing those 4 rings up. But as I said, do this whatever way you like creating simple chains with. Okay, so you've got your string of 3, and what I'm going to do, you don't need to put a twist tie on if you are comfortable with Byzantine and not needing this. You probably need it with the smaller sizes just because the rings are so tiny, and it just makes it that little bit easier to hang on to. But what we're going to do, we're going to grab our rings like this, pinch them between our finger and our thumb. We're going to let that end pair separate and fall one each side of our weave. We're then going to fold them all the way back, pinch them against our work, and when we do that, hopefully these two rings here will separate. If they don't, give them a little shove, a little bit of help. And what we're looking for, guys, is this gap straight through here. This is where we're going to put our next rings, and those rings are going to be our large rings. Okay, so open one of those up, pop them through that space there, making sure you pick up both of those rings that we folded back. Okay, close that up, and then you want to double that ring. Okay, so just put another ring through the same path. Okay, and your work looks like this at this stage. So we've got half a Byzantine unit there. We just want to build up the other side. So we're going to take up our small rings. Now with Byzantine, we usually work with that initial chain of 3. So in this case, our large rings are going to be the first pair of rings in our chain, and then we're going to pop on a pair there. Okay, just like that. And then another pair of small rings through that pair. Oops, open that up a bit more. There we go. Okay, so there's one and one more. Okay, so there's our starting chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. So like we did before, we're going to hold on to our work, pinch it between our finger and our thumb, separate out that end pair of rings so one falls on each side of our work. We'll then fold those rings all the way back, squeeze them against our work, separate out those 2 rings so that we can see that space in there. This time we're going to take our small rings and feed it through that space. So just straight through there, picking up both of the rings we folded back. And of course we want to double that up, and we pop another one in. Oops. So that's our Byzantine unit, our completed Byzantine unit. And we need to make up several of those to make the bracelet up. So you can do them all in advance, or you can work your way along and just do them up, but do up a handful to start with. You need at least 2 to do the first step. So go ahead and make up some of these, and I'll meet you back here and I will show you what we do next. Okay, so I've made up a handful of my Byzantine units. And to start constructing our bracelet, I'll pick up one of these units, and I'm going to take one of our large rings, and I'm going to come up here and feed this large ring through the 2 side rings here that make up this Byzantine unit. Okay, so 1, 2. Okay, so just pick up my ring. Alright, I'm just going to go through and pick up both those rings like that. So we're effectively just separating or halving that Byzantine unit. Okay, so put that through there, close it up. I'm going to double that ring up. Okay, so just feed another one through the same path. Okay, so your work should look like this at the moment, and I'm going to put another pair of large rings down here as well. So exactly the same, just picking up those half of that Byzantine unit, the 2 side rings there, close it up. Double that ring up. Okay. And then I want to join these two rings together. So I'm just going to take one of our small rings and go through both sets of the large. Okay, so it looks like that, and then I'm going to double that small ring up. Okay, so this is what our work looks like so far. So this will be the end of the bracelet where we attach the clasp, and we're going to continue building our bracelet down this way. So I'm just going to put that down for a second. I'm going to pick up one of my previously prepared Byzantine sections, and again I'm going to take up one of my large rings and do exactly the same. I'm going to feed it through 1/2 of the top unit there. But before I close, I'm going to pick up the work that I started over here, and I'm going to feed it through the other half of that Byzantine unit up there on the top. And then I'm going to close that ring up, and I'm going to double it. Okay. So this is what our work looks like at the moment. Now this next step, you may not have to do it in this order. It does depend on how tight your bracelet is, but what I'm going to do now, I'm going to slip 2 small rings onto this large ring, and I'm going to do it so that they sit inside the bracelet, not on the outside or the edge of the bracelet, but inside the middle of the bracelet there. So I'm going to pop 2 rings on there. As I said, this is something you might want to do later, but if the weave is tight, I find it's best to put these rings in place now. And then once we've got our work looking like this, I'm going to take up another of our large rings. I'm going to feed it through the remaining Byzantine unit on our first piece, through those rings that I just added, and then through the Byzantine section on our other piece there, or through the side rings, I should say, of our Byzantine unit. So again, I'm going to double that up. So through the folded rings on the first unit, through the rings I added to the large rings before, and then through the side rings on the other half of our new unit, and close it up. And this is what our work looks like. And that's basically it. That's how we join all our pieces together and form the unit. So again, putting down my work, I'm going to pick up a new open ring, pick up a new piece of Byzantine, put it through the side rings there on the top section, picking up our work. I'm going to continue to feed that ring through the corresponding side rings on that section, close it up, double it up, so as I said before, you can put the silver rings in now, or if you prefer, you could put your second pair of large rings in and then go in and join them afterwards. As I said, I tend to find that a little fiddly, so I prefer to pop these rings on now, making sure that they're sitting on the inside of your bracelet, not on the edge of your bracelet. Either way works, so whatever you are most comfortable with, do that. So pop those 2 small rings on. Okay, so you can see they're there in the center of the bracelet. And then I'm going to take up another large ring to finish this off. I'm going to go through those rings that are remaining on our work, the new rings that I just added, and the last pair of rings on our section that we're joining. Close it up and then double it. Okay, put the second one in. But that's it, guys. That's pretty much all there is to this weave. So keep working like that until you get the length that you require. And you'll want to finish off with a pair of large rings like we started. So get to about the length that you need, and then remember to add another pair of large rings in, and you do it exactly the same way as we did before. We're just going to put it through those last sets of rings that are loose there, our small rings. We're going to double that up. Okay, and this time I put the large rings in place first and then do the silver rings. Part of that is because it's the end of the weave here and it's not as restrictive as when we're doing it in the middle of a weave. But again, do whatever it is that you prefer. So I've got both pairs of large rings on my work, and then I'm just going to join them up by putting 2 of my small rings through them. Okay, and once you've got the length that you require to attach a clasp, I just chose to do a slide lock clasp. Okay, putting a small ring through each of the large rings, or a small attachment ring through each of those large rings, and then popping my slide lock on. Okay, but that's it, guys. That is the Bydand weave. All right, my lovelies, well, that's it. That's the video tutorial today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was of value to you. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube, share on social media if you like. While you're here, don't forget to check out some of the other content we've got. There's plenty on board. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider doing that for us. That would be awesome. And last but not least, guys, don't forget to give our shop link up here in the corner a little bit of love and affection. That's where we sell all the bits and bobs and thingamajigs you're going to need to make up this weave and many of our others here on the channel. All right, guys, thanks again for popping in, spending your day with me. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and that I get to see you again sometime in the very near future. Bye.